What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to New York Down South. Hope you are having a great Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all those good dads out there. Hope you guys are enjoying your Sunday. I'm back. Episode 2, still floating from the New York Knicks being champions of the world. I still can't believe that I get to say that. That is just an unbelievable feeling. I never thought I'd say it. So the fact that I could say it, that the New York Knicks are the world champions of basketball, is still great. And I've still been buzzing off of that for the past week and a half. Still has not gone away. What a feeling. Thoughts initially on that, diving into the parade, and I'll get into that, but just, seeing the Canyon of Heroes completely filled. Millions upon millions of people, there to celebrate. Just, it was just a beautiful thing to see, and it hasn't been seen since 2011 with my Giants, so the fact that was, and just the weight of that parade, probably more so than anyone, because you just think, the Giants have won. The Yankees obviously have won a ton. But, this championship, you could just tell from that parade by just the sheer volume of people that were there, just how important this one was. Because, again, the Knicks are New York's team. They're just New York's team. When the Brooklyn Nets, if they ever win, it's not going to be even close to this. This is New York's team. Even when the Giants, everyone is a Knicks fan. Everyone is a Knicks fan. So just to see the Canyon of Heroes filled up, and just all the love that was being thrown at the players, and the players were just all giving the love back. I just love seeing the clips of, Josh Hart running in the crowd. Jalen Brunson at one point brings a trophy and, brings it along the route and, is letting people touch it. Just a great day. But, it's hard to complain about a parade. I don't think anyone's ever going to complain about a parade, right? But there was just some things that were a little weird as I was watching it, and it's not even specifically the parade route, just really towards the end. I guess the weirdest thing on the parade route was Tyler Kolek. The police not knowing who he was and him nearly getting arrested because they didn't know that he was a player on the team, which I guess he doesn't look like one, but still, how do you let that happen? But it was so minor, it was not even a big deal. But going to the speeches, when we actually got to the City Hall area, I felt like, again, and I think the biggest surprise was Mamdani actually gave a great speech, which, as New Yorkers, however you feel about him, he gave a great speech. His speechwriter gave him a great speech, probably, but it was really good. I think the thing that bothered me the most afterwards was those two random guys that came up there and were just talking. Just the two other politicians. I don't even know who those people were that got up there and were just, speaking, which, that was weird. That was really weird. And then James Dolan just taking weird shots at Mamdani. It's just okay. And then I don't know. I was looking forward to hearing a little something from Kat, maybe a little something from Josh. Maybe and I love Jalen gave a great, his little thing that he did was perfect. I loved what he said about the bookmark at the end of the thing about the haters. You ain't got to say shit to them. I love that. Just very on brand for JB. And that was cool. But yeah, I want to hear more from the players and these random politicians that really no one gives a crap about. So that was weird. But again, who am I to complain about the parade? There's just little things that were kind of weird. And yeah, I thought it was unnecessary James Dolan kind of was taking shots there, and I get him and the mayor don't like each other. It's very much a thing, and I understand the reasons why, and it doesn't even matter, but I don't know. Make the day about the Knicks, not about your differences, with each other, which, speaking on the ownership piece, I'm going to start off with the positive with the owner of the Knicks, James Dolan. You got to give credit where credit is due on certain aspects. At the end of the day, the guy put the right people in charge and got out of the way. Finally, he finally put the right people in Leon Rose and William Wesley, Worldwide West, in position and got the hell out of the way. But before that, he caused decades of pain. And although I commend him for making the changes necessary, 20 years too late, and finally hiring the right guy, because it's not like, there have been so many big names that have walked through that building that have just failed, and it's just been the wrong thing. And so, again, you have to commend him for doing the right thing and staying out of the way of the basketball side of things and, trusting the guys that he hired, which, again, I at some point, I do need to hear. I want to hear from Leon Rose, man. I mean, the architect of this, and William Wesley. I want to hear from these guys. Leon Rose apparently doesn't, not big on the media. He rarely appears. We don't see him speak a lot, but I do want to hear from them at some point. But I don't know. It's weird seeing him up on the stage, and he gave the apology saying it's sorry it took so long. But yeah, James Dolan, I appreciate him for coming around, but it still does not erase a lot of the bad that he has done. It definitely helps, but it's still so. I don't know how many Knicks fans are feeling like, and maybe I shouldn't care. I shouldn't give a crap. Like, we won a championship, like, all good, but I would say Jim Dolan was up there with, like, the worst owners, not in the NBA, in all of sports. And I don't think no one would disagree with me. That's not a hot take. He was one of the worst owners in sports. And I mean, we've got a couple of them in the state of New York. And I mean, or New Jersey rather. I mean, Woody Johnson for the Jets up there is one of the worst owners in all of sports. So I mean, the fact that he was able to turn around, fact that he was able to make the right personnel decisions, because realistically, if you think about it, I mean, the Knicks have been, we've been a solid team now for the past 5 years, 6 years. We had the one when we got Julius, we had the playoff where we got knocked out of Atlanta, then we didn't make it, and then we got JB, and obviously have just been rising and rising and rising. But we've finally gotten a little taste of just what we've wanted for decades, which is sustained success. That's what and for me, that's like when you're watching any team, that is what you want, sustained success. Like, ultimately it gets to a point where it's like you have to win a championship, you have to, but sustained success is what team. I mean, there's a reason so many people love the Yankees. I mean, and hate the Yankees who are not from, because we haven't won a World Series since 2009, which is, again, Cry Me a River, right? But, we win every year. We're in the conversation, and we are so spoiled. And I forget that sometimes how spoiled we are. Like, some teams, like, in baseball, they're sniffing the playoffs once every 6 years, something like that. So the fact that every year we're in the conversation, and, I'll definitely going to be touching on my Yankees later on in the show. That's definitely something, you can take for granted, for sure. And I mean, I even with my Giants, I felt like they had sustained success for like the 2000s onwards, up until really that last Super Bowl. And then it was just, they might as well, my Giants might as well have been the Knicks. They've been a laughing stock, right? And I'm hoping, right now with Jackson Dart and Malik Neighbors and, some of these pieces we drafted and, Brian Burns, that, they're going to be back in that conversation with Harbaugh at the helm. But, it's been a decade and a half of just misery since that Super Bowl. But anyways, that's a different conversation. But yeah, back to James Dolan. Again, you got to give the guy credit where credit is due. He did the right things. He made the right hires. And we're here. We're free. The New York Knicks are NBA champions, and I never thought I would say that in my lifetime. And that kind of, gets me going with staying on the James Dolan thing. He went on WFAN and he was talking to Craig Carton and Chris McGonigal about, off-season plans and what they're going to do with the team. Just thinking about the outlook for next year, and one thing he said he would not do was go into the second apron. And I don't know. I feel like that's kind of divisive between Knicks fans because it's part of me is like, apparently every day since they've won, there has been a line out the door at the MSG store for people buying merch. I mean, that was no surprise. As soon as the Knicks were going to win, like you're going to see people till the end of time wearing a 2026 New York Knicks NBA champion shirts. You just are, me included, when I get it in 6 months. But it kind of hurts, but it's one of those things where it's like I get it's probably not really about the money. It's more so about what that second apron kind of restricts you from. But I think there's ways out of it, and I don't know. There's the most important thing for me is that 1 through 5 right now, JB, Hart, Bridges, OG, and Cat, they're all secured for next year. That's what you want. That's the most important thing, is that those 5 guys are all secure for next year. And I feel like that rarely happens, so the fact that that is our reality is is incredible. You can't shy away from that fact. And, I think as long as we have at least 4 out of those 5 guys for the next couple of years here, we're going to be, we'll be in it. But, some of these bench pieces, I think, and for me, this is kind of where I'm like racking my brain of like, where do we go? Because I definitely, in 1998, the Yankees won the World Series. That didn't stop Brian Cashman from going out and getting Roger Clemens, right? There's always tweaks you can make to make your team better, even if you win a championship, because really, and you should be doing that. Like, if you should be doing that, because even championship teams have deficiencies. You're still like, you can win obviously and still have some issues. And I think for me, I think my biggest thing, like there's a couple guys on our like Mitchell Robinson, I think people are gonna focus on as the most essential piece to bring back, who is a free agent, and I love Mitchell Robinson. If we can make that work, I just think there's no doubt you bring him back. I think he's the longest tenured Knick. He's a guy that the fans love. I mean, he plays great defense. He's just he's great. He's been great for us, and it'd be awesome to see him rewarded. But he is also one of those players too, where like you can he's not irreplaceable. He's not irreplaceable. We definitely need, I think if we are going to be competing with some of these teams out west especially, we're going to need a 7-footer who's a big guy that plays great defense and can roll to the rim. Like, we're just going to need it. But that you can find that. That's not impossible to find. But, obviously if we can bring him back and it makes sense, I think he's definitely a priority. But, guys like Landry Shamet, you can find guys like nobody wanted Landry Shamet, and as great as he was for us, this postseason, guys like Landry Shamet are easily replaceable. I'll tell you who I do love on our bench, who we have locked up still, I believe, is Jose Alvarado. I think he has a player option. Jose Alvarado, I thought was might have been our best bench. Might have been our best bench piece. I know that might be a hot take, but he was excellent. He plays great defense. He can handle the ball, which is good. He shoots a little bit. Like, I just feel like he's just a great culture guy. And obviously, shout out, my fellow Puerto Rican, and he's a New York native. He, to have a hometown kid on the team, I think that's a great thing. But I don't know. Another unpopular opinion too is I just feel like Deuce McBride. As much as I love Deuce, and he was critical and he had a lot of great moments for us this postseason. He's a player for me that when I look at, in the finals, he was ineffective. Eventually, Mike Brown stopped playing him because he couldn't. He's really a guy. If he's not hitting shots, like, I don't know what he necessarily brings to the table. If he's not hitting threes, he's a smaller guy, and I think that's my biggest thing this offseason. Obviously, we have Mitch, who's a 7-footer, but I want our bench to be just a little bit taller. just a little bit taller, because once you get past our starting five and JB and go into our bench, like even just beyond Robinson, I feel like we just have we have a lot of small guys. Like Alvarado's not big, Shamit's not huge, Deuce McBride is not big, so I want that would be something that if I'm looking at making tweaks and giving this team a chance to repeat next year, those are the things that I'm looking at. Those are the little tweaks I'm taking. And again, and it is back, and it is exactly the same as it was before. I don't think that's a big issue either. I don't know how you can be angry about that, but like again, wanting to be competitive and wanting us to have the same feeling again, like I just think championship teams always make those tweaks to become a little bit better. There's also the factor too of like what else the Eastern Conference does, right? That also is another huge thing. I'm interested to see where Giannis goes. I'm hoping. I feel like I keep hearing things that we're going to see him get moved. We're going to see him get moved. We're going to see him get moved. And I think there is steam and momentum building. I'm hoping that he goes to Miami, because that doesn't really change anything in the East, if I'm being, in my opinion. I think Detroit's still coming. Again, when Halliburton gets back with the Pacers, that's a problem. Boston is still an issue. There's teams that are gonna give us problems still, but I don't see anything greatly shifting the balance of power too much, besides just some of those teams coming back and being hungry and gonna want to go after the champs. So man, that's still a good feeling. I love saying that still. That's so good. Golly, you have no idea the satisfaction of saying my team is a champ. Yeah, and I cannot, anyway, so going into that, that second apron thing, I think if you have a chance to if you have a chance to improve your team, if you're James Dolan, I think you have to maybe think about dipping into it, also with the opportunity to get out of it as well, if you are, if you're taking a look, as your season's going along and finding a way to get out of it. So I think that's a big thing. But again, I'm hoping the team, as long as that starting five comes back intact, which it is, I think everything else is changeable and should be. You should always be looking to tweak. You should always be looking to change. So, I'm not crazy bothered by James Dolan's comments on the second apron piece. But again, if he feels like if dipping into it just makes it better and gives us a better chance to run it back, especially with some of the money that's coming in right now for the Knicks. I do think that's inexcusable. If that becomes the one point, I'm just that's where the part of me, and I think where you're going to see some of the fans just be like, come on, dude. Like, and anyway, so I think we as fans deserve a team that's going to be competitive again. So, and we're going to show the love, and we're going to buy the merch, and we're going to do all that good stuff. So I'm hoping. This offseason, after the draft and stuff, I'm sure we'll see some exciting things after the draft. I'll come here and recap. I wonder if we're going to trade away our picks or what we're going to do to keep, our salary cap low, but I'm sure we're going to start seeing some of the dominoes start to fall here once the free agency period opens up. So just exciting times. But, I mean... Again, guys, it all goes back to, the New York Knicks are NBA champions. What a feeling. I mean, the fact that it almost feels like you roll into next year just like playing with house money, because you're like, we finally did it, and I want to feel this feeling again. I'm still, I think there's something to be said of like when your team wins and like you kind of get back to reality. I'm still just... I'm still in shock. I'm wearing my Knicks stuff to bed like I'm 5 years old. Like, I am still in just pure bliss of like what an unbelievable moment that was. And yeah, you just, it's funny. I talk with friends about this, and I think I have some friends that are just like, if I see this one team win once, like, I'm good. And I'm greedy. I want to see my teams win all the time. I just want to, I'm loving this, but I wonder what we're gonna do to try and get another one here. So hopefully that happens. But yeah, still just great things from the Knicks. But moving on from the world of basketball, because that season is officially finished. and I'm sure as news pops up, I'll discuss that with the offseason with the Knicks. But moving on to the league that is in action right now and is in full swing, moving over to the baseball diamond, my New York Yankees. Weird week last week. 2-1 against the White Sox. 1-2 against the Reds. With a bad loss today on Father's Day. Listen, the Yankees are in first place in the American League. I had them as being the best team in the American League going into this season, and they have not let me down. The thing I think for me that's been, the biggest surprise is just how well we have, continued to play with the absence of Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, we essentially took our two. I mean, Stanton, this is every year with him, but we essentially, have both of our biggest bats probably out of the lineup right now, and we have just been winning. It hasn't always been pretty, but sometimes it has been pretty. And I mean, you have to, a lot of that has fallen in the hands of some players that, historically have always been great, but, are showing up now like the Paul Goldschmidts of the world. And Grisham has finally started to turn it around. We got Cody Bellinger looking. Cody Bellinger's been, and I knew he was. I was even a fan of Cody Bellinger when he was with the Dodgers, and I was so happy when we got him from the Cubs last season. I just think he's just one of those guys that's just a ball player. He's been worth every penny so far, and I think he's going to continue to do so. And then obviously the contributions from just an absolute gift and a guy that we were able to develop in Ben Rice, and Ben Rice has been. I never thought I'd be saying this, but, it also doesn't surprise me because he showed flashes of this. But Ben Rice, I think, right now is your American League MVP. He's playing that good. His first base has been so much improved. This guy was a catcher. His first base is phenomenal right now, and he's got 22 home runs as of today, 290 batting average. I mean, the guy is just, and not to mention, I feel like he's just a great culture guy. I love, everything he's about, smart dude, Dartmouth guy. Just been an absolute pleasure watching him play this year and blossom into the player that I feel like there was a lot of people that was his pick to click, the guy that they thought was going to have a big year, and he is having a year. He's hitting righties, he's hitting lefties, he's doing it all. So we're getting great. And then, not to mention the starting pitching and Cam Schlittler, again, we have Cam Schlittler's a Cy Young, in my opinion. I think we have the AL MVP, and I think we have the AL Cy Young for sure on our team right now, which is all you can really ask for, and, just hoping that they keep it up. I mean, Cam Schlittler is must-see TV if you're a baseball fan, not even a Yankee fan. I mean, that dude comes out with a freaking attitude every game. He puts his heart out there. He throws absolute darts. He is just that guy. He is just that guy. And having Garrett Cole back, you don't realize. I don't realize. I think how much I've always been a massive Garrett Cole fan, but Garrett Cole coming off his Tommy John, and I think he's had a great return since he's been back. He's looked every bit of Garrett Cole that I expected him to be, and I'm expecting him to continue to be. And I got to say, our starting pitching, I mean, even we have Max Fried out, and even before he went out, he was pitching great too. I mean, when we get into, the playoffs, I mean, this might be the best rotation we have had since those 90s Yankees. I mean, when you're talking about Garrett Cole, Cy Young winner, when you're talking about Max Fried, Cy Young winner, when you're talking about Cam Schlittler, future Cy Young winner, I mean, those are three guys that, those are three of the best pitchers in baseball. And, that's going to be a rotation. I'm sure on the back end, when we run that four-man rotation, that's where it gets tricky for me. Rodon, and we'll get into that in a second, but Rodon's just been brutal, and Will Warren, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people like Will Warren. I'm okay on Will Warren. I think he's okay. We'll have to see what happens there. I think if you're going into the postseason, that's my thing though with Rodon. I don't trust Rodon at all. I just don't. I don't know. He's been He's had some moments. You have to give him credit. He's had some moments, and some playoff moments, and he's pitched all right for us. But overall, he's not. I wouldn't say he's been a stellar signing, which they're not all going to be. I mean, and at the end of the day, it doesn't. He's our fourth pitcher regardless. So if you're looking at a rotation of Fried, Cole, Schlittler, and then either Rodon or Warren, or maybe a mixture of both in the postseason, man, I mean, just off of that alone, I think we're going to be in good shape there, barring those guys are still rolling going in. I'm waiting for Max Fried. He should be coming back soon. But yeah, that rotation right now, I'm taking that over anybody right now. I don't care what anybody says. I think that's probably the best 1, 2, 3 in the major leagues at the moment. So, yeah, just unbelievable, though. Still in first place in the American League, and that's with Judge being out. I think it just goes to show how much this team has come along since that 2023 team that did lose Aaron Judge, and we fell apart without him. I mean, we completely fell apart without him, and that was. I am a move on from Cashman guy at this point. And it's not to say, and I'm a move on from Boone guy at this point. And it's not even necessarily from an aspect of that he's never done anything good. I just feel like, yeah, Cashman, I just don't think he's done good enough, and I don't think he's been, he's made some good decisions, yes, but he's made a lot of bad ones too. But I got to give him credit, this team. I mean, we've been out of Aaron Judge for I think a month now, maybe, and the team has played great without him. They played great without him. So if we can continue at this pace, we don't rush Judge back. We do not rush Judge back. We continue to play like we're playing, and then bring him back, and then you can kind of even them at that point. When you do bring him back, you don't have to fully just insert him there with the hope of like him saving your season. It just becomes more of a like, let's get this guy warmed up and make sure he's in good position for the postseason. Same thing with Giancarlo. Because we are like our guys have played so well. We have that luxury now of being able to and hopefully for a while of being able to continue to be that best team in the American League and get that number 1 seed and get that bye. So that's a great thing. But with all of that being said, there's changes that there's with the good comes the bad, and there's changes that definitely need to be made. First thing on my list is the bullpen. I mean, which is funny because out of all the things this past like decade plus with my Yankees, I feel like the one thing that I've not had to worry about is our bullpen. But we just have some arms back there that are just feel like dead weight. I don't know. I mean, Camilo Duvall, a 1-1 ball game with Chicago, and Camilo Duvall first pitch grand slam to Andrew Benintendi. I didn't even know Andrew Benintendi was still in the league. He's a trivia question of guess who was that former Yankee once upon a time for like 20 games. That dude is still in the league. He comes in to pitch hit, and on the first pitch, Duvall, you give up a grand slam. That is unacceptable. That's just unacceptable. Like the first pitch, dude. You cannot be coming in a tie ball game with the bases juiced and just serving up a pitch that gets whacked by a pinch hitter. You cannot do that. You just can't do that. And it's not just him, and that's one example, but like, yeah, Jake Bird. I mean, we just have some of these guys coming out of the bullpen. Even Tim Hill has just not been good, who's normally been solid for us. But I think if we're Cashman, if I'm Cashman, at the trade deadline, if we don't given how we are playing this year, if we do not go out there and get 2 or 3 bullpen arms, that is a failure on the front office. That's a failure on the front office. I think he knows that, and I think it'll happen. I'm not saying that won't happen and that they're not. They have to be. They'd be insane not to. But that has to happen. That is probably my biggest glaring. That's truly my biggest glaring thing is that if we want to dive into kind of some other things, is also the catcher. The catcher position has to be addressed. It just has to be addressed. I mean, I cannot watch Austin Wells, and he's a fine defensive catcher. I can't watch him hit anymore. JC Escarra also, those guys, they're just not hitting. I mean, the collective of both of them, I think they're hitting like 190 this year, maybe 200. It's just bad. And at some point, like, I truly feel like we haven't had a good catcher since Jorge. I mean, it really is getting to, like, I mean, you know, if everyone wants to fight me and say we had Gary Sanchez for those couple of years, I'm like, okay, like, yeah, he was fine for maybe a year or two, but then he was just and he was never good behind the plate. He was just a good hitter, which we still need our catcher. I don't mind if we have a catcher that hits 240 and, like, you know, in the occasional bomb, but like we can't have a completely empty at bat from our catcher position and expect to win the World Series. And he also needs to actually play the position well, because that, you know, it always gets underestimated of like, oh, like, you know, he's not hitting, like it doesn't matter if he needs to catch well, but like it just can't be a completely empty at bat from our catcher position every time we go up to the plate, and that's what it is right now. Those are just empty at bats. You know, I've read things swirling around that you know there are a couple candidates up for grabs, and I think one guy that I was shocked to see that might be up for grabs. I don't know if they would ever trade us for him, but I've always liked this dude, and I think he just is in a bad situation. Is Adley Rutschman? If we can get Adley Rutschman to the Bronx, I think you find a way to do that. And if you have to give up, like, maybe, you know, a top chip guy, like I am doing that if I'm Brian Cashman. Or I believe, I forget who the other option was, but, you know, there are options available out there for catcher, and bullpen and catcher. I think if we can address that, you know, I think I'm feeling good about this Yankees team going against anybody, American League or National League. I mean, I'm looking out in the National League. You know, I got the Braves right down the road here playing, you know, continuing to play amazing baseball, as I expected them to. I know they had a terrible year last year, but they have guys on that team that are players. You know, the Dodgers are the Dodgers. You know, there are teams out there in the NL, but I think, you know, if we can address those needs at the draft, you know, with some of the guys we have coming back, I mean, dude, we're playing pretty well considering we don't have one of the best players in baseball back in our lineup, and that is a good thing, because that has not always been the case in 2023, and you could feel it in 2023 when he went down. It just felt like our season was over, and that was one of the rougher seasons I've had to watch. Which, again, spoiled Yankee fan over here, have not had many, but that was one of them, 100%. So, the fact that we are playing this well, I mean, that's just got to be positive. So if we can make a few of those tweaks, I think we're in good shape. I mean, you know, I'm loving so far. I'm loving our outfield, loving Rice, loving our starting pitching. Jazz has even started to play well. I like Jazz. You know, I'm interested to see what happens this offseason with him, especially like when the final results come in of how our season ends. I don't think he's gonna get a big payday. I wouldn't, as a Yankee fan, want to give Jazz a big payday, but he's playing well. The third base position, I know we have like Caballero and McMahon playing over there. Caballero, I feel like, has been just underrated guy for us this year. He's been awesome. He's a scrappy, savvy player, and we just haven't had. It feels like we haven't had enough of that in like years past. I feel like the dude, he's a gamer. His gamesmanship is great. Like, you know, all the stuff that he's doing in the batter box, you know, manipulating the pitch. I mean, he's just a good, and he plays well. He plays great defense. He steals bases. You know, he hits at a decent clip. Caballero has been great. The sooner we can ship Anthony Volpe out of New York City, the happier I think everyone will be. He's shown, you know, it's tough when I talk about Anthony Volpe with like friends and like fellow Yankee fans and stuff, because and this goes for any player on any team that you root for. I'm not rooting for the guy to fail. He plays for my team. I want him to be good, but I just cannot watch this guy play baseball for us anymore. He just bothers me, and I just feel like I just feel like he's gonna make a mistake and he's gonna mess up, and he's not a savvy ball player, and I don't know if that has to do with just. I get his whole backstory, growing up in Jersey, Yankee fan. I don't. He just. Every time the ball gets rolled to him in the infield, I'm just scared. I'm scared about the throw to first. He has a weak arm. I just don't, like, nothing he does inspires confidence in me at all. At all. Nothing he doesn't, even when he has some good games, and he sprinkles some here and there, but like it's not about the sprinkling in of the games. He needs to be consistent, and he's just not done that throughout his career with us, and I just don't know at what point we just take the L. I think this has been one of Brian Cashman's biggest faults, is all the, like, when he has a player that comes up, or like he just take the L, dude. Just take the L. He's not good for us. I think, I think we found his ceiling. I really do. Anthony Volpe, when his career ends, whether that's with us or with another team, he's going to be a 9-hole hitter that maybe plays second base for another team and then fizzles out. I hope that doesn't happen for him, but he's just not good. It's just, I don't know. I just don't enjoy watching the dude play baseball. I just don't. I wish he was good. I don't want him to be bad. He plays for my team. I wish, after today he goes on a 30-game hitting streak and starts playing Gold Glove defense. I just don't. At this point, I just don't really see that for him. I think we've kind of hit a point of no return for Anthony Volpe, that, like, just give the kid, and I felt that way going back to last year. I could not believe we came into this offseason, and I know he was hurt, but like, just going into this offseason with him, still having him on the roster just put my stomach in knots. It just puts my stomach in knots. I just don't like him for us. I just don't like him for us. And it gets to a point too where it's like, and I know he's hurt right now, but like, Spencer Jones has come up and he's played all right. Like, I don't know. Do we see George Lombard? Do we lift him? I would just, when he comes back from this injury, give him a couple more games at AAA, and then I don't know. Let's see, because the thing with Lombard for me, Lombard looks the part too. He's just like a tall, athletic. I don't know. I always had faith in Volpe, because that's what Cashman told us Volpe was going to be like the stud, right? He told all of us that. That's why he didn't trade him for all these pieces that he could have traded to help us get better in the immediate, because he told us that this guy was going to be the guy, and he just really has not been. He has been a detriment to our team. I don't know why, but I saw Volpe play, a decent bit before he got called up, and he had flashes, but like, I don't know. There's just something about Lombard. I just, for some reason, I feel like maybe we had the false hope in Anthony Volpe, and George Lombard's going to be like the real hope, the real person, because, shortstop is the position. I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know, but like, when you have a lockdown shortstop, that's and we had it for years, and we've had it throughout our history. Having a lockdown shortstop that can hit is, captain your infield is everything. So, I'm hoping that, that guy pans out. But yeah, anyways, that's getting into a lot of the negative with this team. This is a positive podcast. This is a positive show. There's a lot to like with the Yankees right now. They're not a perfect team. I don't think anyone, any professional or any analyst would probably tell you that. But you got to be, if you're a Yankee fan right now, given the fact that we do have, we have those key injuries to Stanton, Judge, and Fried, and the fact that we're still the best in the American League, I don't see how you're not happy as a Yankees fan right now, and got to be feeling good as we kind of get, inch into the dog days of summer here. So I think there's some, tweaks that will be made to the roster, and we're definitely going to, I'll definitely keep you updated on that, and we'll chat about it as those times come up. But, yeah, just feeling still really good about our Yankees, hoping we, turn around here. And yeah, as we dive in and get closer and closer to training camp starting, we'll start talking about that a little bit more. And obviously, we have the NBA and NHL drafts. So a lot coming up, but also just that weird time of year. Once, basketball and hockey ends, you're kind of just in the middle of the season of baseball season, which is, things aren't heating up quite yet in baseball. But luckily for us, World Cup soccer is happening right now. That's one thing that's not New York sports, but I'll touch on quickly. I mean, I've got to go see that first Paraguay game with some friends at a bar over in Decatur, Georgia, and we, it was a great atmosphere. Drinks were flowing, and it was beautiful to see. And I just, I'm not the, I've become a big soccer guy in the past couple of years here, so I understand I'm not a nerd about it. I have a lot of friends, funny enough, that are nerds about soccer, nerd out on soccer, and know the tactics of it more than I do. But I'm learning. I know a lot about players and coaches and stuff like that, and even just kind of watching this U.S. team, which has been amazing, and they've been so fun to watch these first two games. So fun to watch. We just feel athletic. It just feels different than anything I've seen with U.S. soccer before. We're scoring goals at a great clip, and even in my early years of being a big soccer fan, I had a feeling I don't know, we have some guys with pedigree on this team. We have good vets. We have good young guys on this team that are just showing out. Our coach, our coach right now is the best coach we've ever had. So it's an exciting time for U.S. soccer, and I just feel like this team's going to do some damage. So I'll keep that updated. But any summer where you have the World Cup going on is great, and honestly, the World Cup I feel kind of leads right into training camp. So as a sports fan, it's a beautiful, beautiful summer, and we have the U.S. Open, and we'll have tennis U.S. Open as well. So just enjoying the summer and enjoying this World Cup, and hopefully I get to talk about the U.S. team going deep into the knockout rounds and potentially bringing that thing home. So we'll see what happens, but that's all I got for you this week. We'll see what happens with the NBA and the NHL coming up here. We'll have another recap of our Yankees next week, and again, another recap of the World Cup. But again, appreciate you all for tuning in. Hope you have a happy Father's Day to those fathers out there, especially those who are missing their fathers today, like myself. Happy Father's Day to them. But appreciate you all for tuning in, and have a great week.